There's the story that people tell, and then there's the truth that really matters. Welcome to the Growth Obsessed podcast, real and raw conversations on leadership, business, and the relentless pursuit of growth. No fluff, no highlight reels, just the struggles, the setbacks, and the lessons that build true success. I'm Ben Lang, and I sit down with the most driven entrepreneurs and leaders to uncover what really shapes them, the pain, the resilience, and the breakthroughs. If you're here, you're not looking for surface level motivation. You're here to be challenged, to grow. So let's get real and let's get uncomfortable. This is the Growth Obsessed podcast. And don't forget to subscribe now. The conversation you need might be the one that changes everything. Today, I have Jermaine with me. Jermaine is a good friend and also my book publisher. And so I'm super excited because I know Jermaine is a serial entrepreneur. He has been a realtor before. He owns a publishing company now. So without further ado, Jermaine, can you tell us a little bit about I know your story, but can you share your story a little bit?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm honored to be here on this podcast with you, brother. It's always great to see amazing individuals create an amazing impact on the lives of others. And this is just a platform to introduce amazing people to amazing people. So I'm honored to be here today. My story is unique in the sense that I have multiple overcoming adversity stories, but I want to start with the story in which we are where we are today, and that's from a publishing perspective. So a few years ago, we were going through COVID, and prior to that, I had met my mentor, Mr. Les Brown. People know, familiar with Les Brown. He's the number one motivational speaker of our time, I believe, impacted the lives of many. I started going on a personal development journey in the field as a realtor because I started realizing that my income went up and down like my attitude. And so I wanted to get to a point where it was consistent, at least in terms of if money was coming in, if money wasn't, if clients was coming in, if clients weren't, deals flowing, deals weren't. I needed to make sure my attitude and my work ethic remained constant. So I started this incredible motivational self-help journey where I found myself not just, 15, 2,000 books in my library, but I was invested in myself in terms of seminars and courses and classes and all of those different things. And what I realized back then, Ben, is I loved helping people. I didn't just love helping people purchase homes or sell homes. I loved helping people with their lives. And so that journey to me spun out to me speaking to other realtors about things outside of work, right? The things that we are affected by on a day-to-day basis, not necessarily work, but I feel like if you can help somebody with their life, you can help them with their income. And that's where I was at. I was motivating realtors, and that turned into auto sales, life insurance, and all these different industries where I felt sales and mindset needed the most. Ironically, I was introduced to my mentor in the 2017, and the first thing he said to me is, "Jermaine, where's your book?" And I had no idea that he wasn't just asking me where my book was, but he was asking me where was my mark on this world? What was my impact in this world? What did I overcome in a sense where I can then share my story or share what I've gone through and how that would also help the lives of other people. The things we go through, Ben, in life is never about us, but it's about the people's lives who will change because we overcame it. A lot of us never tell our story because we don't think our story is valuable enough. And that's where I was. And so when I wrote my first book, Wake Up and Win, years ago, he was the person who wrote the forward to that. We went through COVID. I wrote my second book, Wake Up and Live, in which Diana Nightingale, who is the widow to Earl Nightingale, wrote the forward to that book. And then I wrote another small book. And then I wrote my fourth book, which was forwarded by Don Green, who's the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And what I learned the most in that time is that we have unique stories in everything that we've gone through in life, and everything is valuable enough to impact people. So I was taking all of my life experiences, all of my personal development, and one thing that I know for sure is I made sure that all of the things that I was studying, I was reading, worked for myself before I started trying to work this on other people by speaking and all of the other things that I was working on at the time.
So you mentioned Les Brown. You mentioned a couple big names. Let me ask you, power of proximity. What's your take on power of proximity?
The power of proximity, I think, is incredible, but I think nothing's more impactful than the power of your mind. And the reason why I say that is all three of those individuals I did not know, and I didn't know people who knew them. All I knew is I wanted to be in their lives. So because of that, I didn't have close proximity. I didn't have someone who knew someone who knew someone who could get to them. I literally made a conscious decision. This is what I want. This is who I want in my life. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I never focused on the how. I just focused on what it was that I wanted. And I believe once I focused on what it was that I wanted, the power of proximity started to work in a sense where everything started lining itself up until I got in close proximity with the thing that I desired.
Yeah, yeah. So no one. So you found a way to meet Les Brown on your own.
Yes, I wouldn't specifically say I met him on my own, but I feel like the moment I made a decision to say, hey, this is what I want for my life, I don't really know how. I didn't focus on the how. I just knew this is what I wanted. All
Mhm.
of the circumstances that surrounded me actually meeting him had to conspire with what it was that I wanted in my life. And I think that's one of the challenges that most people deal with. They don't really actually believe the thing that they desire in their life is possible for them. So it becomes wishful thinking. And when it becomes wishful thinking, you won't move, the universe won't move, God won't put you in positions for you to actually have the thing that you desire.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So the self-limiting beliefs, we all have them. I have them. I mean, I know very successful people that have struggled with self-limiting beliefs and then gotten past that. How did you get past those or I mean, I imagine there was a point when you did have self-limiting beliefs and thought to yourself, maybe I'm not worthy of that accomplishment or having that person in my life, or it's just too far of a reach. I'm sure like the noise that happens in our head, it's crazy. But how did you overcome?
Well, the one thing that I realized is that every time we're going after something in life, whatever it is, dreams, goals, aspirations, something that we want to accomplish, we're always going to be met with adversity. Anytime a plane takes off, the first thing that the plane is met with is adversity, in the sense where it's something pulling at them. There's a force that's going against them, but the plane doesn't focus on that, whether it's the turbulence, the adversity, whatever. It focuses on its destination. And when we realize that we are much more powerful than the actual adversity that we're going through, or when we understand that there will be some kind of pushback to something that I want to accomplish, especially if it's something that I've never done before, I can't expect that there's not going to be any challenges, but it's what I actually believe about myself and my ability to accomplish the thing that helps me overcome the adversity. So, case in point, most of the times, and this is true of myself, when it's something that I've never accomplished before, the noise, we almost have to have noise canceling headphones for ourselves, our own mindset, our own eyesight, our own feelings about what it is that we desire. That's the thing that separates us from good to great, from great to greater. It's the our own noise that we have to tune out. So what I usually do is I create routines and things that's going to help me get to where I want to be. So, for example, I limit what I'm watching, limit what I'm listening to, limit who I'm around, especially if there's people who I know once I get around them is going to take me away from where I want to go. We have to get to a place in our lives where we value who we are and we value our dreams and we value our goals and we value where we're going, and then we align ourselves with the things that's going to help us get there. So that means we're going to have to make a sacrifice in what we read, how we look at our days, how we give all to each day, because tomorrow's not promised. Heck, the next second is not promised. And we all know that. So the question always becomes, what is more challenging, me getting to my goal or me sitting in regrets because I never really actually went after the thing that I wanted?
That's the golden question right there, right?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
so what I heard you say was your mental diet. Your mental diet is like on point. You only absorb things that align with your goals and your dreams and your hopes. And I think a lot of people miss that part, right? Like there's like scrolling through social media, watching like Netflix, like none of that really serves us. And if we're truly committed and I say obsessed about a lot of things, I just think like if you want something, you truly have to be obsessed with it.
Agreed.
But I don't think a lot of people know like what that sacrifice entails, like cutting people out of your life. Um, I see on your social, I see you're in the gym every morning, so I know that's part of your routine. What are some of the other things that you incorporate in your routine?
Yeah, so the first thing that I'm always incorporating in my routine is my own prayer and meditation. That's super duper important. I believe that that's the foundation, it's the structure, it's the placement of your mindset, and then obviously what you do after that. Then there is the physical discipline in terms of gym, working out, cardio, having a goal for yourself there, but then also what you do outside the gym in terms of what you're eating, what you're staying away from and drinking and all of those different things. Those are super duper impactful. But the next thing that's so important is the discipline and actually going after what it is that you are desiring in life. So, for example, we talk about purchasing a home or getting a car or whatever goal there is for us to have, but we never actually talk about the person required of us to become in order to get those things. So while we're writing all of these incredible things that we want to accomplish in our life, we never actually sit down on the same board and say, what type of person do I need to become in order to accomplish these goals? That person gets up at 4 a.m. in the gym at 5. That person, spends more time with his children. That person invests, more than he spends. All of those different things are required. So when we talk about those disciplines, it's discipline to write your goals down, pray, meditate, get to the gym. But the biggest discipline is asking yourself, what type of person do I need to become in order to accomplish all of those different things that I desire in my life? Because there's no such thing as something for nothing. And I believe that if we have an idea of where we want to go and what we want to do and what we want to have, we have to sacrifice certain things and certain seasons in order for us to get there.
Yeah, there's a cost. There's definitely a cost to entrepreneurship, to success. Now, how many times, and I don't know if it's the same all the time, but I love that exercise. Okay, we take a whiteboard and on the left side, here's my goals, and on the right side, here's who I need to become to make these goals and dreams and hopes actually come to fruition. So, how long or how many times should people be practicing that exercise?
I think it's every time. And the reason why I say every time is this: if you're someone of who operates at a very high level in life, that means you always have a goal after a goal, right? So what I mean by that is I accomplished this one thing, but the goal in terms of me getting something else, there's something else after that. And as long as we have goals in our lives that help us go up the ladder to greatness, once we accomplish one thing, after that one thing is accomplished, we're looking for something else to accomplish. That's how people stay inspired in life. That's how people seem as though they're always doing something of value because they have another goal. A lot of us have one goal, we accomplish it, and then we need 2 years off, a 2 year break. Whereas successful people have multiple goals that they know after this one goes, the next one, after this one goes, the next one. I'm always reminded by one powerful story that I read in the book Think and Grow Rich about when Napoleon Hill had a conversation with Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison was one of the most fascinating inventors and goal accomplishers. And what he did was, it was powerful because Napoleon was able to get an interview with him after he finally figured out how the incandescent light bulb worked. But he was on his way to another project. That next project was the talking dictating device. And he said if he hadn't figured out a way to get the light bulb to work, Napoleon Hill wouldn't have been able to get a conversation or an interview with him. And why that was so powerful was, one, he was focused on his goal. There was nothing that was gonna get in the way of him accomplishing his goal, no matter how many times he went after it, how many times he failed. But the second powerful thing about that is he was going to his next goal. And that was the only reason why he was able to have the interview. And I'm saying all that to say, here's a man who failed 9,999 times getting a light bulb right. He finally does it. He's not thinking about the fact that he needs to go on vacation. He's thinking about the fact that I didn't start the next project until this project was done. Now I can take all my energy that I was using in that. I know the key to adversity. I know the key to failure now. So I'm going to implement that here on a talking dictating device. I'll give you a few moments of my time, but I got to get to work. And I think that if we focused and looked at life like that, whether it was down with our family, our finances, our friends, our business, the gym, if we always looked at life that way, where it was, I was able to accomplish something of value. I'm going to take a little break, but now I'm going back to something of greater value than the thing that I just overcame. And I'm going to take those principles I learned there and implement it in what it is that I'm accomplishing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard you say impact and purpose a few times. And every time I have a guest on here, there's a couple of things that come up repeatedly. First is actually faith. Faith comes up with so many successful people I speak with on here. Second is impact, and third is purpose, right? So it's doing it's for something greater than yourself, right? I watched this, half hour thing on Netflix, maybe like 2 nights ago. So I watch Netflix.
Okay.
I was just talking earlier about, but no, this was positive, right? So it was good for my mental diet. But it was a documentary about hardened criminals, like lifers in a maximum security prison. And they had a quilt making program.
Mm,
And they made quilts for everyone in the entire state for foster children who had been adopted.
mm,
Like these massive quilts, right? And they were interviewing these guys who they were telling you, like, they're hardened criminals, like they killed people, they murdered people. And these guys, when they're talking about making the quilts and they're reading the thank you card that they get from the children or seeing pictures of the children with the quilt, like, I looked over at my wife. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that just really like solidifies what purpose
mm,
in your life, what kind of significant change, purpose and impact. Like these guys were um just changed men. It was quite an incredible thing to see. If you get a chance, you should watch it. It's only like a half hour
What's the
long.
name of the movie?
I don't know. It's a documentary
Movie. Okay.
on Netflix, but it is about like quilts and them making these incredible quilts, and just the artistry of it, and having a purpose, having a purpose.
I agree.
Really, like it's so very important. Let me ask you. So, uh, what was your upbringing like? Did you have like a good upbringing? What was your upbringing like?
Ironically, I wouldn't say my upbringing was incredible, but it was good to a sense where I was raised in a single parent household. My mother raised me and my brother. In fact, I didn't meet my father until I was 19. Didn't even know I had another side of the family. And then, ironically, my brother's father adopted me when I was 5 years old. And these are stories that I'm just basically finding out over the last few years. But he adopted me when I was 5 years old, and he disappeared. So we had my mom raised two boys, two different fathers, and she did what was best for us, I believe, in a single parent household. And while she worked a lot, my grandmother was the anchor to showing me what love was, and patience, and religion, and God, and all of those different aspects of life. My grandmother was the person who basically inspired me to be great. She passed away, unfortunately, when I was 19 years old. And then, after that, I realized the impact of having someone in your life as powerful as she was. And then, life kind of took a turn after that. We just try to figure life out, and you don't realize how powerful someone's impact can be on your life until they're no longer there. So, after her, being gone, and then not really having such a powerful relationship with my mom because of her working and doing everything she could for herself, I had to just really figure life out after that.
So you're 19, you're trying to figure life out. Did you go to college? What'd you
Yeah,
do
so
to figure?
I went to Delaware State University when I was 19 years old. First person to finish high school in my family and go to college. Around um, around the second year in college, we discovered my grandmother had lung cancer. And if you're familiar with lung cancer, or lung cancer, cancer period, you'll know that cancer in 7 different languages is the most feared word. Somebody hears cancer, they immediately think they're going down. Ironically, in that timeline, my uncle had gotten into a very bad auto accident, which paralyzed him from the neck down. So the reason why my grandmother had went so deep into cancer is because she didn't want to tell her family she was dealing with that, while we were also dealing with my uncle. So by the time my uncle was straight, to a sense where he was at a hospital trying to get himself back together, we ran into that, and it was pretty much too late for my grandmother.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty deep. Um, when you went to college, and I'm just gonna kind of
Yeah.
move on a little bit. When you went to college, what did you go for? What did you think your life was gonna look like after college?
I wanted to, some point, I wanted to be in business, in the world of business. In high school, I was in this cooperative program where I worked 1 week school. I went to school 1 week. I worked 1 week in corporate America. I thought I was going to be an investment banker. And so my first year in college, I was in, business, and then I transferred over thinking I was going to be a doctor. So I went into biology, chemistry, trying to just figure things out. Ironically, all those things I went to college for, I have nothing to do with nowadays. But it was a thought that counted then. So, yeah, so I actually, with my grandmother getting sick, I didn't complete college. So my sophomore year, I left college, and then, pretty much been on a go since then.
So let's talk about that. I mean, your grandmother's health and her passing kind of, I would assume, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but shattered you to a certain extent because you were so close.
Yep, absolutely.
So now you're trying to figure things out. You've left college. What's your first move?
First move after leaving college really was, what the heck is going on? I had dreams and aspirations of finishing school. I had promised my grandmother I'd buy a car and a home once I finished college. So now with her not being there, I didn't realize that the day we buried my grandmother physically, I buried all my dreams and goals emotionally and mentally. And so I think, from the moment that she passed away and we put her in the ground, it took me so long to try to figure out what I wanted for my life. I didn't realize that the majority of me doing the things that I was doing was because I was inspired by somebody to do something. So when all of that like smoke cleared, I was numb, and I was basically floating through life hoping to arrive at death safely is one of the ways I can kind of say how I was living. And I felt like I didn't really wake up in life until I was about 35 years old. So my grandmother passed away when I was 19. I woke up and I realized at 35 years old, what did I build these last 16 years of my life, and what the heck was going on? And I think it was at that moment where I started looking at life different. I had already been married twice, and I was going through a divorce on my second marriage, and now flowing into pretty much being a full time father of three sons. So it was like when I finally woke up and everything kind of was like, what the heck was going on? I got these responsibilities, I got these businesses that I created, but I wasn't really sure I was living the life that I really wanted to live.
So what triggered that? What triggered at 35? Was it the divorce or was it just
Well, I think what happened was at 35 years old is when I really started asking myself, what do I really want for my life? Because even then, I wasn't actually we weren't going through the divorce, but it was more getting along a separation line and what was going to transpire within the parameters of the relationship with the children and stuff like that. So it was kind of like trending. We didn't really separate until I was around 40. So I think a lot of the stuff that was happening was basically just because I was goal orientated and I was someone who wanted to accomplish things, I found myself accomplishing things, but I was numbing how I actually felt in life. And I wasn't really going after the true thing that I really wanted, which was my purpose and my passion in life. I was doing things to do them. I was doing things because I felt like I could be successful at them, but I wasn't really doing the thing that I really wanted to do in life.
was that when you were selling real estate?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was successful in the industry, you know, and successful to a point where I was strong enough to start my own brokerage in New York. And to do that, you have to have obviously some experience with working with other realtors, experience with having a team and all of those different things. And once I started the company, I realized how much I did not actually want to sell real estate anymore, and how much I actually didn't want to come out every single day and rent apartments or show homes or do all of that. It just wasn't a part of something that I wanted to do anymore. And I felt like it became a situation where I was only really doing it for the money. And people say, "Oh, you make a lot of money in it." I said, "Well, the money doesn't really matter to me anymore if I'm not in alignment with it. I don't believe a person should be doing anything in this life that they really don't want to do, especially if they feel like they have to do it."
Yeah, and so I think a lot of people can relate with where you were. You're making good money, you're good at what you do, you have success, but you're also feeling like this is not where I should be. Like it's everything's great. I could keep doing it if I needed to, and people would probably think I'm crazy if I got out of it because of how good I am
Right.
at it and how much success I've amassed. But you've got this internal voice that's just like you're not where you're supposed to be. You're not where you're supposed to be. You're meant for something more or something greater, or maybe not. Maybe it's not even more greater, but it's just you're meant to do something over here. So, but I think many people in that situation, and you had three children, so it's like, holy crap, how do I?
Yeah.
What's the first step that I actually even take to shift gears? Tell me about that. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm actually in the process of, which I can share here on this podcast, but I'm actually in the process of finalizing my new book. It's called A Full-Time Dad, Full-Time Father, How to Win at Life, Business, and Fatherhood. And I think I'll share just kind of a little bit about what I wrote in that book. It was like the moment when me and my ex decided we weren't going to do this anymore. We both didn't think about how it was going to really impact the children. I just knew that the longer we stayed together, the more negatively it was going to impact the children. Right. And so when she made the decision to leave, she was a stay-at-home mom, for over 10 years. So the stay at home mom situation set up, I was more nervous about the fact that if I left, I'd be the one having to financially hold the bag than anything else. But she decided to leave. And in her deciding to leave and wanting to find herself and freedom and happiness, which I believe everybody should be entitled to, I was the one who shouldered now being an entrepreneur and being a full time father. And I think that in those early moments for me, which happened to be around the same time I was writing my first book, the second book, the third book, the fourth book. So when I speak to authors nowadays and they like, I don't have time to write a book, or I've been writing a book all this time, but all of these different things come up and this and that. I'm literally going through a divorce, raising three boys during COVID, and I'm writing books, right? So I never really, there's really never it's really never about what we have on our plate. It's about how we arrange what we have on our plate and what's more important to us. And so for me, what was important to me was after a conversation I had with my mentor, and I was telling him all of the things that I was dealing with at that time. And he said something to me that I'll never forget, and it changed my life. He said, Jermaine, you have to build businesses or build a business that does not allow you so much time away from your children. And you have to be able to spend enough time with your children that it doesn't take so much time away from your businesses. It was very challenging to hear in the beginning, but that goal was so powerful for me because I said, I don't want to miss basketball. I don't want to miss soccer. I don't want to miss volleyball. I don't want to miss these intimate moments with them while they're young. How do I create businesses? How do I create an environment for them to do well? We don't take away from our style of living, type of living, but I also am able to still earn the income of my desire. I had to make a decision, right? What business could I create where I'm happy, I love doing what I'm doing, and then I'm still able to spend the necessary time with my children where I don't feel like I'm losing business or I'm losing time with my children. So when that became the focal point and that became the goal, then life started becoming a lot different for me.
What did the pivot look like though? Because you had the real estate brokerage, right? So did you sell off the brokerage? Did you dissolve it? Did you
No,
keep it for
we
some passive
actually,
income?
yep. So I during COVID, when everybody started working from home, and it was no more office situation, people started making decisions to go to larger firms because they could give them more of whatever they could at that time. I looked at that moment as a time to say, hey, I'll keep the brokerage open. If money comes in, it comes in. I can still I'm licensed, I can still sell, but this is the time that I need to start focusing on other businesses that in 3 to 5 years, if I'm working extremely hard on them, it won't take away from the time that I need to spend with the children, but I'm also building a business that now the income can come in from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it had to be scary, right?
Yeah.
Tell me, like, honestly,
Yeah.
it would scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, I mean, when it's different when you have another adult that is like, I guess at least they're helping you with the children, right? Then your focus isn't so much on I got to get them to school, I got to get them food, I got to be here. You can share the responsibility. But when everything falls on you, I can't tell you how many times I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed, sitting on the edge of the couch, sitting on the floor in the bathroom, and just crying, trying to figure out how all of this stuff is going to be able to work out. How am I going to be able to continue drop offs and pickups? How am I going to continue to cook all day and make sure I'm at parent teachers conference and this and getting this person from here to there and then work and then all of these different things that goes behind the scenes as being a single parent. So I definitely applaud all single parents, but I applaud all single parents who are business owners, entrepreneurs who figured out a way to manage their life, the lives of people that depend on them financially, and the lives of their little children that are wanting to make sure that they can spend time with them, that the income is there for them to do the things that they want to do too as well.
Yeah, so I think your new book. When's the new book pop?
I'm still working on a date. Initially, it was Father's Day, but I just think I'm pushing it out. So maybe sometime in July or August of this year.
I think a lot of people could benefit from that. It almost kind of reminds me of what's that movie with Will Smith when he
Yeah,
became a
the pursuit of happiness.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, single dad just trying to, and I remember scenes in that movie just him like having breakdowns, but he kept going and kept going, and what like I think that's what separates a lot of people is I don't think. Let me ask you this. So, you obviously need some degree of talent, maybe, but if you have enough grit to just never quit until you get to where you want to go, isn't that sometimes just enough?
yes, I believe, but the prosperity has to outweigh the adversity,
Yeah.
and having enough grit to get where you want to go means that you know where you want to go, and everything outside of that is contrary to where I want to go. So once we start to realize, hey, this is where I want to be in life and this is where I really, really want to end up, then the grit comes in. And then we're pushing and we're working and we're doing everything we have to do in order for us to get to where we want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to ask this question because I love Les Brown. I think he's amazing. Um, what are the three most important lessons that you've learned from him as your mentor?
The most important thing I would say out of the three that I learned from him, I remember having a conversation with him and I was talking to him about other speakers. One thing less is he's not going to pay attention to nobody. Like I say, he's not paying attention to nobody or anything in his way. He's not. And so I was talking about this speaker and how this person does that and how this person talks to this audience and that and that. And I'm going on and on and on and on. He goes, Jermaine, don't look to the right. Don't look to the left. Focus on where you want to go, your dreams, your impact, your purpose. And the people who need to hear your voice will hear your voice and follow you. And the reason why that was so powerful is because you and I could have the most identical stories ever. We were like, man, you went through that. I went through that. Oh man, I went through this. I went through that. Right. And the reason why this was powerful to me was because you and I could have those same similar stories, but there's an audience that just likes how you deliver. There's an audience that just likes you. There's an audience that just likes your personality. They're not saying anything bad about me and my story. That's just your audience. And then I have my audience that loves the way I speak, loves my personality, loves how I am as a person. That's not a slight to you. They just like me. And when he said that, I realized that there's that many people in this world that we have our own impact on, that we don't have to worry about who's doing what. All we have to do is about our what and our message. That was the most powerful thing that he said to me. The next thing he said to me that was super powerful was, "Where's your book?" And it was powerful in a sense because it was not random. I don't think we were just talking about something, and the first thing he said to me is, "Where's your book?" And he said, the the impact that you would have, you don't realize, would linger long after you're gone because you're leaving a legacy in words. And it was that, "Where's your book?" that I then took that and started asking people the same question. So when the publishing company started, now almost 3 years ago, that was the basis of why it started, because I always was in motivational world. Now I'm just motivating people to tell their story. It's the same exact thing, right? I'm just motivating you to talk about the things that you've gone through and how you'll be impactful because you overcame it. So he talked about that. The last thing that was inspiring for him, we have a lot, but the last thing that was inspiring was when I first went to his first seminar that I saw him at. I purchased some tickets and I thought I was in the VIP that I would get a chance to take some pictures with him. That wasn't the case. In fact, I bought the wrong ticket package because when I went to go take the picture, or thought I was going to take the picture, the lady goes, "You bought the wrong package. You should have got the titanium package." And I'm like, man, I drove 2.5 hours to be at this event. I was going to tell my mentor how, he inspired me. And now you telling me I can't take a picture with him. And so I sat down in my seat after I left and I said, I don't want to be in his life as a picture taker. I want to be in his life as a spiritual son. I wrote that down, and literally, this was a Get Motivated seminar in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The next year, literally from that date, I was at a Get Motivated seminar in Newark, New Jersey, which is only like an hour from me now. But this year later, I'm walking out on the back of the stage with Les Brown, and he turns around and he says, "Son, here's my phone. I'm going to do a dance. I want you to take a recording of me." And why that was so powerful, these are three things. One is because I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to be in his life as a picture taker. I would be in his life as a spiritual son. I held that. 1 year later, same event, different location. He's now turning to me saying, "Son, record this video for me." So that wasn't necessarily something that he said that was impactful. It was something that I learned of: when you desire a thing strongly enough, if you can see yourself with it, holding it, in company with it every single day, that feeling of that happening starts to become real for you, until the reality of it actually is, and it no longer feels, it just materializes. So those are the three things that I learned from him.
Love it. Those are all good, really good lessons.
Yeah.
Really good lessons. Um, what do you wish that more people understood about the price of chasing their dreams? I know we touched on it earlier, but like I I think it's worth spending more time on, honestly.
I think that I think it was George Bernard Shaw. They asked him when he was on his deathbed if he had his life to live over again, what would he do different? And he said, I'd be the person I could have been, but never was. And that was the most powerful thing I've ever heard. One, because, excuse me, most of us never get asked that question when we're about to die, to kind of look back at what life could have been if I did this, or what life would have looked like if I chased this dream. So we actually never know. And that's the reason why we're so lackadaisical about our purpose, why we're not so motivated to go after these things, because number one, we assume that we got enough time. Number two, we don't see the importance of living the greatest life we can possibly live. And number three, we just magically think it's going to happen once we write it down on a piece of paper. And I think that when we focus on, again, what it is that we really desire in our life the most, and spend our dominating portion of our days going after those goals, then we'll start to truly see the value of why we need to go after the things that we want. Because I think it was Jim Rohn that said something years ago. He said, what we intend to do is one thing, what we settle for is something totally opposite. And that's exactly what we do. We intend to live this great life. We intend to go after these dreams. We intend to do all of these great things, but we settle for the complete opposite of that. And we settle every single day.
Complacency,
Complacency.
really.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's, I think you're right. I think a lot of us think we have way more time than we actually do. And so we just put it off. We'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Right. I think a lot of people could benefit from the books that you've put out there. Tell me about each one of your books, and the concept or premise, or how each one could help someone going through a specific season in their life.
Yeah. So my first book, Wake Up and Win, was just really a combination of me waking up to, the self-help motivational aspect of world. And now I've taken all of these stories and growth and development and goal accomplishment, and I put it in this one self-help book, where the lessons of Earl Nightingale, or Napoleon Hill, or Les Brown, or James Allen, who wrote As a Man Thinketh, all of those books that I was studying that time motivated me to help people wake up and win the life of their dreams. So the purpose of Wake Up and Win is like, hey, from the moment you wake up, you could win. Every day you wake up is a day you can win at everything, but it all depends on how you see it mentally and how you see it physically. So that was the basis of Wake Up and Win. During COVID, I always knew I was gonna write more than one book. I just didn't know how that was supposed to play out, because when I was writing Wake Up and Win, I was actually going through the divorce. Wake Up and Win came out months after the separation. So not only was I going through a divorce, separation, etc., and writing a book, now COVID hits. And we were supposed to go on a 16 city tour with Wake Up and Win. Wake Up and Win book became Wake Up and Win Conference. Wake Up and Win Conference was led by Les Brown, a few other great speakers, myself. So I'm like, hey, man, this book is really going to take off. All these great things are going to happen. And then COVID hit. So we shut that down. While we were in COVID, during COVID, I'm like, I got to do something with my life. And one day I was watching CNN, and there was a gentleman that I saw laying on a bench. Now, I was watching CNN during COVID because of obviously COVID, all the things that was going on. That was President Bush's first term. Trump's first term. You got riots, you got looting, George Floyd stuff going on, all this crazy stuff happening. And the news commentator zeroed in on a man sleeping on a bench. Now, he's sleeping on a bench, riots, cars, fires, looting, everything going on. And he's sleeping on a bench. And I said to myself, wow, that's it. people don't want to live no more. You gotta wake up to live, right? And I get up off my couch, I run in my office, and it takes me 6 days to write this second book, Wake Up and Live. And Wake Up and Live is pretty much centered around the events around COVID and how people became zombies to social media, the news, being afraid of living, this disease or whatever that came into this world. And now all of a sudden we can't go outside, we can't do anything. So that concept of that was literally just waking up to live again, right? Just live again, right? And that was the basis of Wake Up and Live. So a lot of the concepts in there was coming back from adversity to live again, overcoming certain setbacks to live again, all of these different things. My third book is called Unshakable Focus, Faith to Overcome Circumstances Using Suggestions. And it was a small book. I was having a conversation one day with my mentor, and he mentioned having an unshakable focus to accomplish things. And I'm like, man, that having an unshakable focus with what you say is even more powerful, right? It's very important how we suggest certain things and how we say certain things in life. And so I went and I wrote this small little book, Unshakable Focus, maybe 5 chapters, 60 something pages, maybe 50 pages, powerful on using suggestions. That book then was the catalyst for my fourth book, The Magic Power of Your Inner Conversations, which can be used as the magic power of inner self-talk or self-talk. And I started talking and speaking about the power of life and death, which is in our tongue, and essentially how we create our worlds, create the life we want by what we say. And that was the basis of the magic power of your inner conversations.
All really good topics. I love the self talk, and the wake up and live. Honestly, I mean, people need that
Yes,
too.
sir. Yes, sir.
It's and then you published my book, so and you did an amazing job. So how do people reach you if they want publishing services?
Yeah, so JM Publishing started actually after the fourth book that I published. A lot of people in networking, entrepreneur spaces started seeing the book, started seeing me speaking more, and they wanted to figure out who was helping me with that, how that was happening. So the publishing business really started basically because of my own work. And this is the importance of going after purpose. Because once you start going after purpose, you'll start to see how purpose starts to align and things start to happen for you. I wasn't thinking about a publishing company. I was only thinking about a publishing company for my own books, not for somebody else, until one person asked, could I write a book for them? And that became a hit. And then another person, then another person, then another person. And then we started publishing those books. So JM Publishing, you can find us on social media. All social media is JM Publishing LLC. Our website, jmpublishingllc.com. You can go see some of our work there. We've created courses, programs, webinars on how to write books, how to be an entrepreneur, author. All of those different things are there for you to download for free, and to get help. And if you're interested in writing a book, as Ben did himself too as well, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, awesome. Um, One last question. Your younger self, I don't know, let's say after your grandmother's passing, you're 20 years old. What's the advice that you give your 20-year-old self?
The advice I would give my 20-year-old self is don't take life so seriously. And every day you can forgive yourself and forgive somebody else. And the reason why I say that is because I think the moment we start to forgive, let go of anything that was in the past, anything that we might have been connected to in the past, it allows us to see opportunity and to be grateful and gratitude for the things that are coming into our lives in the future. The longer we hold on to the past, the longer we hold on to things that happen or people that had did things to us, the further we are away from experiencing the good that God has in store for us. So my younger self, I'd say, man, listen, do whatever you can to forgive and let go, and don't take life so seriously because you only got one shot at it.
Phenomenal advice. Phenomenal. Jermaine, thank you so much for spending the last hour with me. I really appreciate it,
Absolutely.
and definitely value your time, and think you're a really successful dude and super sharp dude. So I think people can gain a lot out of everything that you shared. So thank you once again.
Thank you, my brother, for having me on the show.